Hello and welcome to another episode of Moose's Gear Goo Review. I'm Moose, and today we have another knife review. And this one is really cool looking. This is the Cold Steel Counterpoint 2. The Cold Steel Counterpoint 2. So, really cool looking knife offered by Cold Steel. I'm going to get into some stats and then we will talk about the knife. The overall length of the knife is 6.87 inches. The blade length is 3 inches. The blade thickness is 0.14 inches. The handle length is 3.875 inches. The overall weight of the knife is awesome at 2.2 ounces. And the handle material, once we get into it, it is a polymer. I think it's like a Gryvery, but it's the same handle material that they have on some of their other knives, and we'll talk about that. So, really cool looking blade. I was super attracted to this blade, mostly for two reasons. One, I got a good deal on it. I found it on sale online for around $40. But that being said, you can find it at the time of this video for around $60, which I think is a fair price for this knife, considering the features and the overall design of it. So usually I start with the blade and work through the handle, but just looking at it, just overall, just a classic kind of stiletto, boot knife looking shape to it. A lot of mixed kind of designs in there, but looks really cool. And it is based off of Cold Steel's Counterpoint 1, which is a little bit larger size than this. It's a more of a full size version. And there's three sizes more or less of this same design, and we'll talk about that in a sec. But starting off with the blade looks awesome. Man, what can I say? It's like a spear point dagger blade. We got a full flat grind. Very little belly to it, almost no belly, but it slowly tapers up. Mirrored shape on the other side, giving it that spear point. And then we have a false swedge, or almost a false edge on the upper side of the knife that goes away half the length of the blade, which really looks cool. And it does also add some function as far as like doing slicing. It's going to prevent drag through that tip, which is really cool. And as you can see, just with the overall shape, this would be an excellent blade design for piercing or puncturing, depending on what you're doing. But yes, very nice job on that. It is a satin finish, full flat grind, or I believe it is a hollow grind. But it is satin finish, and yeah, so it's a flat grind. Sorry, I just looked that up there. Flat grind, even better. I love flat ground blades, so that is really cool. Totally like it. Um, yeah. We have a dual thumb studs. It is somewhat adjustable. This new Cold Steel adjustable thumb stud, it has a flat head, and you can screw it to one way or the other, depending on what hand you favor for opening. Um, and there's a small tool at the end of the knife there for sharpening the blade. Really cool looking blade. If anything, that's what really attracted me to this knife. Moving into the handle, like I said, it's a polymer handle. Very classic kind of boot knife style handle, coffin shape, would some people might call it. But it just has that swell at the bottom so you can pull it up or out, catch your knife. There's also a front and rear guard for the fingers there, kind of, and a choil. And that back guard actually works as like a thumb ramp. Now, I have large size, XL size hands. So the handle is a little bit small for my hand, especially trying to fit that thumb in that thumb ramp. I would have liked to have seen the thumb ramp up a little bit more, but it is a smaller knife. So for those of you with smaller hands, this would probably fit perfect. And if not, I really found this as a usable knife. It isn't a big deal to put my thumb up there, but for simple things, opening letters, cutting open boxes. This wasn't that uncomfortable, but for any hard use tasks, I would definitely feel fatigued. With this, there are 3 stylized holes drilled into the handle. They're also functional, providing a way of lightening the weight on this knife. There are steel liners, and like I said, the handle material is similar to um, other materials, like on the Tough Light knife and some of their other knives. It's like a Gryvex or something, or a Palmer, but has a decent texture to it, and you can tell it's really tough. So nice job there. All the silver hardware on the knife is silver. We got Torx screws, and then it has a satin finish. Very nice pocket clip. That is left side, right side, tip up only. And because it's a back lock knife or a mid back lock knife, it isn't a true ambidextrous knife. And that being said, since it is a cold steel, many of cold steel knives have their triad lock, which is considered and is more or less proven to be the strongest lockback design or locking mechanism out there. So it's really rock solid. The lockup on it is just ridiculously solid. Like when you get a cold steel and you feel how those lock up, you know you got something legit there. So really awesome. Um, so nice job. And the weight, 2.2 ounces. Very nice. Easy to carry in pocket. I mean, it's a little bit thicker than some, and we'll compare it to some other knives coming up here in a sec. But for what it is, the size and the length of blade and just the overall look, very classy, cool looking knife. Could easily be used as a self-defense knife too. So that being said, let's compare it to some other knives. We have Cold Steel Counter-Strike 2, my personal favorite, the Cat. Now, I would consider this knife in general to be a small pocket knife, a small EDC knife. So I'm going to compare it to some smaller EDC knives. Kind of the mid-range. I wouldn't say mini. I wouldn't say XL. I don't know. I guess it's a small EDC knife. I got the Spyderco Cat. Love the knife. I have the Benchmade Griptilian 556. Awesome little knife. And then I got the Kershaw Skyline. Another awesome knife. Alright, so I'm lining up the handles with this line here. The top of the handles. As you can see, the blades are fairly similar on most. The Skyline is taking the edge there with just over 3-inch blade, where the Griptilian and the Counterpoint 2 have the same length, about 3 inches, and the Spyderco Cat is just under that, at about 2.5 inches. Handle length wise, the Skyline has a larger handle, and then the Counterpoint 2 has the second largest handle. But for the most part, I think the Griptilian and the Counterpoint 2 are most similar as far as size of blade and handle. I forgot to mention that the Counterpoint 2 actually has CTS BD1 blade steel, which is my favorite blade steel, just for general purpose and ease of use. It holds an edge really well, easy to sharpen, and it has a really good corrosion resistance, stain resistance. So, and the other thing is, it's a really well-priced steel. So a lot of decent knives like the Bird Raven 2, Spyderco Cat, those types of knives, they're mid-range, they're around $50, and the steel just helps them hit that point, but still offers really good qualities. And it's not too hard, so it's easily maintained. So awesome job with the BD1. So looking at the blade thickness, we have this one compared to the grip, and it looks like the Cold Steel, they're about the same. I want to say the Cold Steel's a hair thicker, but if it is, it's barely noticeable. Handle wise though, I believe the Cold Steel handle is thicker than the Griptilian. We got the Spyderco Cat. I'll say the Cat is thicker blade stock. Once again, just barely. They are both BD1 blade steels. So awesome job there. If you like BD1, definitely keep an eye on either of these. And handle wise, the Cat is thinner. And then we have the Kershaw Skyline. It looks like the blade stock's a little thicker on the counterpoint, and the handle is thicker. So there's that. Our final test is the Ugly Brown Glove test. This test is to see how well the knife handles or feels in hand with a clumsy, bulky cloth glove. So right away, the Gravity handles, the texturing on it actually feels pretty grippy. Plus the holes that are milled through that give it a really cool look also function to help my thumbs lock in if I'm just holding it this way. I'll say this, that the thumb studs are a little rounded, so I have to kind of dig in to get them, but they are accessible. And once the knife is open, that Gravity actually sits okay. That finger choil locks in, and that thumb ramp helps lock in. Reverse grip, there you do have this kind of milled out thumb divot, so if you were doing some stabbing punctures, you have that to lock your thumb in, which is comfortable. The one thing when you're doing this knife, there isn't much of a buffer as far as a flat of steel, so when it comes down, the potential to cut yourself is really easy. So with lockbacks in general, you want to try to use a two-hand close. It's going to be safer, especially with this knife. Otherwise, if you do it, you can kind of press it. But I don't recommend that. I recommend just using two hands. But overall, passed the Ugly Brown Glove test. Yes! So awesome job there. Totally passes. I'll give it about 83%. Alright guys, so there you have it. This is the Counterpoint 2 small EDC boot style knife. Awesome little knife. Totally recommend it, especially if you can find it for around $60. Totally worth it. BD1 blade steel, and it just looks really cool. It's just fun to hold. The only drawback on it is the fact that the handle is a little chunky as far as width, so it's not the slimmest thing in your pocket, but nevertheless, very cool knife. So please comment, like, and subscribe if you like this video. Subscribe. I'll try to put some links up in the upper right hand corner, so click on the eye up there and check out some of my other videos and unboxings. Other than that, thank you guys, and I'll see you outside.